Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So we finished verse 8. We finished the two very famous verses of chapter 4, Yada Yada Dharmasya and Paritranaya Sadhuna Vinashaya Dushkatam. So the last verse was that he comes on this earth as an avatar because to protect the good, destruction of wicked, and establishment of dharma. And I'm born in every age. And these are just, avatars are like some of the symbolic, but there could be many more. And we discussed all that in detail. And we go to the next one. And I think Meena ji has raised this question that how personally we can learn from this, and that's what this verse is about. So let's go with that. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktvam deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjuna. So here, let's see the words first and then we'll see what he's saying. Janma is birth, karma is action, cha is and, me, my, divyam, divine, evam is thus, yaha, who, veti, knows. Tattvataha, this is a very loaded word, in true light, but with essence. Truly somebody knows, not superficially. Tyaktva, having abandoned. Deham is the body, punaha is again, janma is birth, na is not, eti means gets, mama to me, eti is comes, saha is he, Arjun o Arjuna. So basically here what Krishna Bhagavan is saying, the one who knows my janma and karma. So there are two things, his birth and his action. In true light, the person who knows that person gets over birth and death. So there are both ways we have to look at it. Whenever we, in Bhagavad Gita, how Swamiji explains, we are looking at, hey, janma maran se chutti mil jana. So that's physically one aspect. Another aspect is while living in this world, we become free. So, when we say moksha is knowing my true self becomes moksha. But not just theoretically experiencing it. So that's another very important thing that we have to remember. So basically what he's saying that once we learn, and Krishna Bhagavan told us how he's born and with the help of Maya and all that, even though he's a non-doer. So through learning his janma and karma, we understand our own janma and karma. That's what it means. And then with that knowledge, we get over the cycle of birth and death, or we become jivan mukta, and death is also considered a world of change. That's how Swamiji explains it, that when we are constantly living in the world of change without it being established in that knowledge, we are, every day we are suffering. So you get over the suffering. How does knowing his secret help me? Because that whole knowledge aspect comes in there. That consciousness and matter in their relationship. Okay, so consciousness it never takes birth and never dies. Because if one who cannot take birth cannot die. So being established in that's what his knowledge is. And knowing that matter is the one. So when we saying get over birth and don't take it a physical thing, obviously we know in this class by now not to take it a physical thing, but that way. And then tattvataha is again going deep into it, not just superficially. And what is tattvataha is, same thing, like I think the best example is ocean and waves. That if I know H2O from its tattvataha, like then I know that the entire ocean is H2O. And then I will not see the separation of waves. And if I don't see H2O, then I'm going to see the difference. So that's how another way, because these are the things that we have to kind of contemplate upon it, what he means by tattvataha. And knowing that, matter is also, it's like, it has come from God only. You can call it God's Maya, God's Shakti. So both aspects you have to know. So through knowing his birth and karma, janma and karma, I also become free. Because I gain that knowledge for myself. Because I also have learned that in essence, we are the same. So from that point of view, we have to say, yes, we are in this body. Yes, this body is limited. And when we say Ishvara, he's all knowing, we are limited, and all that we know. But by essence, just like that H2O I was talking about, that's what it means, essence. And we also have learned that we have Atma present in us, which never dies, which never takes birth. So, those kind of things. I think Kamla ji has to mute. Kamla ji, can you please mute? Okay, there she did it. Okay. All right, so any question on this point? No? Who is the reader today for verse 9? Anilji, you want to read?
He who thus knows in true light my divine birth and action, having abandoned the body, he is not born again. He comes to me, O Arjuna. After explaining the how and the why of incarnations in general, Krishna declares that those who, by constant contemplation upon this fact, understand the divine birth and activities of the Lord and their limitations and reach Godhood. That is not a mere understanding or knowing that is indicated here in clear from the very words in true light, tattvata. That is, we have to experience subjectively how and when the Supreme Atma takes its avatar in us. Today, no doubt, individually we live as limited mortal brutes, but at certain moments, when we are entertaining pure, selfless desires, the very same spark of life in us comes to manifest a divine potency and a celestial dash.
Okay, so here Swamiji has taken it one step further now. He's literally saying that you can invoke that avatar within yourself. And which is the beauty of this. And then he also said that tattvataha ka unhone ek aur deep meaning bataya, because these words have so much loaded meaning that you have to think of it from all aspects. And that is, it is experience subjectively, not just the knowledge, because we are right now, हम लोग को knowledge तो हो गई, अभी हमें experience नहीं हुआ है, but the people who are self-realized, they actually start experiencing it. So that is the difference. But if we continue on this path, then that time will come that we will experience it. So we have to just follow this path. But he's talking about tattvata meaning to experience it, and you can experience, and in a small scale, we experience glimpse of it in our life. When we are all together and we are in, peace and harmony and all, whatever work happens from us is like avatar doing it. It's another way we can look at it, subjectively.
And the key is to recognize that moment.
Yeah.
So you can practice it again.
Yeah, you can practice. And then, once we recognize that moment truly, then we want to be in it more and we want to remember it that way. And the difference between the self-realized and us is that they are totally established in it. That's why we say that they are totally in samadhi. वो लोग कभी अलग नहीं होते. हम लोग जैसे ही दुनिया में जाते हैं आगे, we kind of get sucked into the problems. Yeah, true.
This stanza also subtly indicates that for one's spiritual development, the practice of upasana of the blissful form of the Lord is as efficient a method as meditation upon the formless self. There are some professional Vedantins who cannot accept the concept of the Lord having an embodiment. They are merely barking at a shadow. To one who is practicing sincerely and wholeheartedly, the goal is equally available whether it is through the upasana of the truth with a form, sagun, or without any form, nirgun.
So there's another very important point he touched upon over here, because this debate also goes on so much, and when you know tattvataha, you can catch it either way, and it's perfectly fine. It depends on your own makeup of a mind. So Swamiji uses such amazing language, that they are merely barking at a shadow. And, you see that, some people who are like die-hard meditators, unko pucho, oh, I don't believe in all this murti puja. Oh, there are people around me who say like this too. Oh, I don't do any of that. But it's possible that the people who are doing murti puja are much more advanced. They have a more purified mind. We don't know. So that really doesn't matter how you approach. It is whether you're making progress or not, whether you're purifying your mind or not. That is the most important thing. Method does not matter.
Prabhuji, is it also true that once you do upasana through sagun form, then automatically you transform into nirgun?
You will understand it, but see somebody like Ramakrishna Paramhans, he was a Mahagyani and he was a what you call self-realized, but he still did Kaliki Upasana because he was in the body. He enjoyed that. See, so agar and that famous stories there about Vivekanand. All of you must have heard it in some form or the other. Drishtant was that, one of, I don't know exact story, but the gist I can tell you. That, somebody was mocking that, hey, these Hindus do all this puja and all that. I think it was some Muslim king and all that. And then so, how to explain, Vivekanand is Vivekanand, So he just picked up his picture, which was hanging on the floor, and he dropped it on the floor and said, "Thuko uske upar." And he said, "What do you mean?" So he said, "Tum thodi ho wo." See that? But if you like what Swamiji used to say, Murti Puja mein, it's an ideal it's an idol that represents an ideal. Like how when our children are away from us, we keep their picture. That's how it is. That reminds me of that. So as long as I know that this is a symbol of that, if I think that Bhagwan is only in this murti, then I have a big problem. But he's a symbol of the one that is everywhere. Then it's that saguna is totally fine, because there's a joy in it, in engaging.
Krishna is indicating here the supreme state of perfection, the state of existence from where no one is not born again. In the earlier Vedic literature, the state of Godhood is described as the state of deathlessness, Amrata. While in the later Vedic literature we find a slow changeover, and the eternal is explained as the state from which one is not born again, Ajay. The evolution of this concept clearly indicates the intellectual development in this country at that time. When a society is immature, its members are afraid of death. But as they grow and evolve, it is not death that frightens them, but the possibility of a new birth, for it starts a new lease of agonizing existence in imperfect environments.
So basically, he's just saying that Amritatva or ajaha. There are two words, deathlessness and birthlessness, but both are the same. At one time in history, they were using more, and he gave the reason and all because Swamiji is talking about some historical things also. But we understand it. It's like the wave, the ocean, from the ocean perspective, wave was never born or died. It just little disturbance happened, and we are calling it birth and death. You can look at it that way. So.
It is evident that the state of deathlessness is itself the state of birthlessness, because death can come only to that which is born, and yet the change in expression declares the maturity that was gained by the Vedic students of that period.
Yeah, continue.
This path of salvation is not one merely reasoned out by Krishna to suit his present purpose, but it was walked even in ancient times.
So basically, then it's telling you about the next verse that this was not or Krishna Bhagavan is telling some new theory. This has been around, and lot of people through this method, by understanding and janma and karma, have already attained the highest. That's what basically he's telling you. And he's not telling you anything new, but he's just rephrasing it so that we understand, so that Arjuna understands this. Okay. Any question on this verse? It's a lot of, whatever we have learned so far, everything goes with it, about Atma, Paramatma, Jiva, and everything together we have to remember in this one. Now it's building up now, in Bhagavad Gita. He's opening up in a lot of different ways and going in more depth, And some of the concept, even in the beginning, they might sound confusing, but as Krishna Bhagavan takes us to the journey, it will start becoming more and more clear, and with Swamiji's explanation and some of the other Swamis' explanation and all that. Any comment? Anybody wants to add anything to this? Or any question? No? Okay. I'm assuming no. So the next verse actually is a very nice verse. It's almost like the whole Vedanta and the path and the goal, everything is in it. So let's see that next verse. Vitaraga bhaya krodhaha manmaya mamupashritaha bahavo jnana tapasa puta madbhava magataha. So Vita, Raga, Bhaya, and Krodha. And we have gone this very much in detail in the last, 2 chapters. So freed from attachment, fear, and anger. And here we have to remember, main culprit is Raga, is attachment. All the other things are like children of attachment only. That is the main culprit. Or fear and anger comes because we are attached to something, or we have a desire, clinging desire to something. Clinging desire meaning almost like I feel I'm not complete without it, or I want to have it so badly. They're not talking about ordinary type of desire, you want something, get it and finish it. No, something that bothers you 24/7. That's the kind, So then mana absorbed in me. So basically it is going to tell you that how a person who gets rid of this Vita, Raga, Bhaya and Krodha, and actually basically अगर attachment को हटा दिया तो भय और वैसे ही भाग जाएगा क्रोध. You remember, when you have a desire, some obstacle comes in the middle, that's called krodh. So it's two sides of the same coin, So, and even lobh and all that, Mad Matsarya means jealousy and all that are modification of the same attachment. As you go deeper into it, it becomes like that, and we have gone over it so many times. So the person who doesn't have, Vita means doesn't have that, freed. That's the person who can get absorbed in me, Mama is me, Upashrita is take refuge in it. That's another very loaded word, that's the person who knows the consciousness well, tattvataha, remember from the previous one. That's the person is going to take refuge in it. Because what we do is ulta. We take refuge in the world with, our body, mind, intellect, and all that. These are just equipments, according to the Vedanta. Real refuge is the consciousness only. Bahavaha, that's another very important word here. Many have attained this. That's where this word is coming. That many have attained, being absorbed in me by getting rid of their vitaraga, bhaya, krodha. And you have to look at this thing from the other side also. The one who gets absorbed in me, uska attachment, bhaya, vagara sab bhag jata hai. So it's like a circle, you can take it either way, but the path bhi hai or goal bhi hai. Jnana tapasa, that's another very important word. Jnana tapasa is ज्ञान का तपस्या जिसको बोलते हैं अपन हम लोग हिंदी में ना, मीन्स उसके लिए प्रयत्न करना. Or like our teacher used to explain, tapas is कि जब I give up my small values and I pick up higher values, तो उसमें थोड़ा मुझे ताप लगता है, थोड़ी तकलीफ होती है, उसको तपस बोलते हैं. Like my body gets heated up, mind gets heated up because I'm getting rid of it and learning something new. That is jnana tapas. And it's a fire of knowledge. That's how it, Swamiji is explained here. Puta is another very important word, gets purified. So all the, what you call sadhana that we do, everything, does not matter if it is karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and the beginnings of jnana yoga, it is to purify the mind. And in that purification of mind, as my mind gets purified, I get more and more established in that knowledge. That's what he's talking about over here. So this purified, how to purify, and that is also one of the goals of all the meditation and everything. Everything has this same goal, that to purify the mind so that I can reach that state. Mad bhavam, my being. These some of these words, manmaya, mamupashrita, these are going to come again and again. Mad bhava, all these are going to come again and again in different chapters. And he gets to my being, and that's what we were talking about in our class, that, seeking God is, the goal is you become that. So it's like a wave and ocean. Wave is ocean, it just think it is separate. So once it realizes, it is ocean. Or you can say that, a salt doll is trying to find its origin. And then it goes to the ocean, walks to the ocean, and as it reaches, it starts melting and becomes the ocean. So that's what it's saying, that, मैं ही बन जाता हूँ, have attained. So they attain my being, So these are some of the important things in this verse. Any question on this? No? Any comment? Okay, and one more thing I wanted to bring up, and it is there, but let me just, because that's a very important thing, that when they say jnana tapasa is that the sadhana leading again to the experience, right? So everybody, I think, in this class at least knows that there are those three methods described, how to begin this journey, say. So the three methods described are Shravanam, Mananam, and they call it Nididhyasan. And so basically, Shravanam, we have discussed it, that this knowledge, it can only come by hearing. Hearing meaning reading also. Reading or somebody telling you about it. Shastras telling you about it, because it is, nobody can show you like an object that this is God. That's why you have to hear it. Shravanam becomes so important, that you hear and then you contemplate. And the second part is that after you hear about it from a scripture or from a teacher or from a guru or from a book, you do independent analysis of it. You see how much it has sunk in, what are my doubts, not for the argument's sake, but real doubts, what they are. and then you try to clean up all those doubts with your teacher. वो मननम में आ जाता है सारा. Your own contemplation, extra reading, this, that, all that comes under mananam. And then finally, sitting in meditation, trying to experience that, that is nidhi dhyasan. So those are the three methods. So this whole Gyan Tapsa mein ye sab aa jata hai, And then Swamiji is going to also explain.
What is the third one? Nidhi what?
Nidhi Dhyasan.
Dhyasan.
That's the Vedantic word for meditation. But remember, meditation also, we have a confusion about meditation. Meditation is preparation for meditation. So in Nidhi Dhyasan, that preparation comes. Because the final thing is Samadhi, they call it, right? That when you are totally absorbed in it, So here it's Nidhi Dhyasan is you're trying to meditate. Nidhi Dhyasan. Okay, so, and then there are other things. And another thing I wanted to tell you about this verse, some people believe that this verse has all three paths indicated in it. And Swamiji in his commentary has it, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. And also it depends on my temperament. If I'm very body oriented, action oriented, for me Karma Yoga is very good sadhana. Somebody is very emotional and all that, for them Bhakti Yoga is very good sadhana, because it's like directing your attention to higher. So through karma you can do, through bhakti, and Jnana Yoga is if you're very logical and you want explanation for everything, and through your logic and all that you progress in it. But in the end, gaining the knowledge is the most important thing. All these people, by doing these three paths, their goal is to gain this knowledge. Because without this knowledge, nothing can be done. And one of the Swami was explaining it so well. He's saying, suppose that मुझे बहुत गुस्सा आता है, right? और मैं वो गुस्सा, I kind of realize कि it is hurting me. I want to get rid of the gussa, right? How will I do it? Can I just get rid of it by taking a bath? No. Or if gussa bhag ja, wo nahi jayega. But understanding se jayega. Hey, even if it's, forget about Vedanta, even if I realize it is hurting me, this is not, it's like a new understanding dawns in my head, then only it will go. The same way, actual ignorance is going to go only when we realize who we are. And that's where this knowledge, like the way Swamiji was explaining, you're taking different paths, but ultimately you have to go through the arch of knowledge to reach there. I thought he explained it so beautifully. You have to go through that arch. So this whole thing that we are doing is for that. Okay? So those are the points, and then we can read. Any volunteer to read? Neeluji? Neeluji, we cannot hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Okay. Freed from attachment, fear and anger, absorbed in me, taking refuge in me, purified by the knowledge, many have attained my being. The entire path of self-development and the final goal that is to be reached has been indicated in this stanza. Without renouncing attachment and its byproducts, which always disturb one's mental equipoise, no progress is ever possible for a seeker. Once this mental discipline is gained, absorbed in the idea of self-perfection, the seeker comes to take total refuge in this great victory. Thereafter, the mission of self-perfection becomes a passion with him to thrill his life. When an individual has thus gained the stage of self-development, he becomes fit for the study and practice of the great scriptures, the Upanishads.
So it basically is telling you the beginning of the sadhana. You have to get rid of this attachment, intense attachment. उसके बिना हम लोग आगे नहीं बढ़ सकते, basically. So
I want to apologize for the landline ringing while I was reading.
oh, that's okay.
Not much I could do. Sorry.
No problem. Okay, go ahead.
The technique of self-development as visualized in Hinduism constitutes the following three measures together. A. The study of the scriptures at the feet of a master, followed by B. Independent analysis of Vedantic truths by oneself in an attempt to understand their real importance, and lastly, C. The seeker's slow and steady attempt at balancing himself in single-pointed meditation.
So these are sorry, I just want to tell you that the three words that I told you in Sanskrit, but here he explained it in English, what each one is. Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasan. And like one of the Swami was explaining that mind needs two things for it to absorb this knowledge: purity and single pointedness. So the Hindi में बोलते हैं, मन को पवित्र करना और एकाग्र करना, because अगर प्योर भी होएगा, एकाग्र नहीं होएगा तो नहीं हो सकता. Because we know if we want to get some work done, we have to learn to concentrate upon it. If I'm in this multitasking that is going on in this world, very destructive. While doing this, I do this. खाना बनाते हुए, I listen to Bhagavad Gita. It's very difficult. If you want to really get it, then you have to, do ekagra. That's what it is.
The seeker's slow and steady attempt at balancing himself in single-pointed meditation, all these three together constitute the technique of self-development as visualized in Hinduism. A study of the theory of Vedanta and all our attempts to live the life of tranquility and love indicated therein together constitute Janana Tapas.
No, it's Jnana Tapas. Because that's how they say.
Tapas.
Yeah, Jnana Tapas. Because in like this, and some of the people pronounce it like Gnana bolte hain wo log aise. But that's why they write it like this. But so now you know that this whole method, एक वर्स में ना पूरा वेदांत है इसमें, which is quite amazing. Go ahead. Now he's going to tell you the analysis of each portion of the verse.
There are some commentators who read into the stanza a synthesis of all the three paths. The path of action is indicated in the first half of the first line, because unless one trains oneself in the field of activity, detachment from desires, fear and anger cannot be gained. The second half, absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, indicates the path of love, wherein the devotee, binding himself with love to the Lord of his heart, lives his life taking refuge in nothing other than the Lord. The path of knowledge is indicated by the discriminative analysis and the constant and continued attempts at identification with the self, Gyan, Tapas. The important is that seekers walking all the seemingly different paths reach but the same goal, the supreme me.
So in your book, is it importance or import?
The import, I beg your pardon.
So because import means, what is the real meaning of it? That's what it is.
Bringing in.
Yeah, okay, just want to make sure. So you see, I thought this was so brilliant, this verse, that it has
easy to understand.
Yeah, it's like all three paths are there and so beautifully explained. And also very important point, he said that ये राग भय और क्रोध जब तक कर्म योगा करेंगे नहीं जाएगा नहीं. अगर वो भरा हुआ है हमारे अंदर, हमको कर्म योग करना ही पड़ेगा. बिकॉज अगर हम वैसे ही बैठ जाएंगे मेडिटेशन में, हमारा ध्यान ही नहीं लगेगा. So all that, those, whatever he has taught in the past, in the last two chapters, he's again opening it up properly. going in more depth.
In fact, these 3 paths are merely 3 different techniques to perfect our mind. All spiritual paths are but attempts to purify the mind, meaning to make it steady and single-pointed. Some of us identify ourselves more with our bodies than with anything else. Others, by temperament, live more in their mental zones. And there are some, again, who live more in their rational personalities. To all these 3 types of seekers, if one of the same path is indicated, the chances are that the technique prescribed will not be universal in its acceptance and application.
So here he's just telling you, and I think that is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita, that it takes everybody into consideration. And it's like Swamiji gave one place, he gave an example. He said कि जब तुम लोग पार्टी करते हो तो तुम लोग क्या खाली 1 या 2 आइटम बनाते हो क्या? यू मेक अ वैरायटी ऑफ थिंग्स. पता नहीं कौन आएगा, किसको क्या अच्छा लगेगा, सबको खुश रखना चाहते हो तुम, राइट? मीठा भी बनाओगे, तीखा भी बनाओगे, चाट भी और ये भी. व्हेन यू आर डूइंग सम बिग पार्टी फॉर सम बिग सेलिब्रेशन, द सेम थिंग इज इन स्पिरिचुअलिटी. सेइंग यू कैन नॉट. और लाइक अनदर एग्जाम्पल इज यू गो टू अ डॉक्टर और वो कोई भी बीमारी हो, बोला यही दवाई ले ले. इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल. पहले पता होना चाहिए कि क्या situation is. So then that's why there are all these different paths, and we have to respect all the paths. And like Vivekanand ji said, you can have a synthesis of all too. I think in this group we have almost like we all love beautiful bhajans also. We do this and that's perfectly fine. But किसी का झुकाव एक में थोड़ा ज़्यादा होता है, which is that's what it is. वो उसका path बन जाता है, But we have to respect everybody's path. And we know that, each one has a equal potential to take you to the highest. That's a very, very important thing.
Can I read? The method of controlling the mind by the body is karma yoga. And it is fit for those who are extremely body conscious and world conscious. Controlling the mind from the mind is the bhakti yoga. And it is conducive to those who are of an emotional temperament. The method of controlling the mind from the intellectual zone is called Jnana Yoga, which can appeal to all intellectuals.
So see how beautifully all 3 is mind control only. Body से mind control किया, mind से mind control किया, ज्ञान, intellect से mind control किया. And I remember that, way back then, which I had not studied the Vedanta so deeply yet, and I found a yoga teacher and I started doing yoga, and she used to always say, those asanas are not to just control the body, it's to control the mind. Through the body, you control the mind. So at that time, I did not understand what she meant. But after studying Vedanta, now I know exactly what she was meaning. So what we do is, the West is so body oriented. Yoga ko bhi unhone khali wo asan hi bana ke chhod diya khali. Like people who do kind of, it's almost like a show off. Oh, look, I can do all these things and all, and it doesn't matter, Each one can do it accordingly, but the idea is to control the mind. That is the goal there, not just side benefits are there. You balance your body and you get good health. Because like एक हिंदी में भी कहावत है ना, भूखे पेट न होई गोपाला. If you're अस्वस्थ, you cannot do bhajan. A sick person cannot do. So first you do have to take care of your body, but you don't have to get obsessed with it. That's what it means. So this is a very important thing, that mind control is the main thing.
What I find foxing is, it says that Bhakti Yoga is through the mind controlling the mind.
Emotions, because when they talk about in Vedanta, it's a seat of emotions. Because one is a deciding mind, that's intellect, where the logic and all comes in. But when you are in that emotional zone, so basically तुम अपने जो भाव हैं वगैरह, तुम्हारा emotions जो है वो directing towards the God. That's what it means, mind control. Right?
But whatever be the path pursued, and whatever the type of which the seekers belong be, the ultimate experience of spiritual perfection gained by every one of them at the moment of illumination is one and the same. This is an incontrovertible fact, for the mystical literature of the world reads as though every saint has borrowed and copied from all the earlier masters across the world.
So it's telling you that you can take whatever path you want, but when the final experience, that is same for everyone. And that's why from that experience, when they talk, there is a similarity. Words may be different, but उनका भाव बिल्कुल वही होता है. And I tell you, the people who have had the ND experiences, when they left this mortal body for a while and they are in that other realm with the divinity and all, and then they come back and whatever they talk, they have not studied the Shastra, a lot of them. And they used to be totally atheist before. But what they describe is exactly what we are learning here. That oneness and everything, and how, like we say, Sat Chit Anand. They felt that Anand over there, which they said that, and they always say that it's so hard to describe, but each one has their own way of saying, but you will see that behind all their words, they mean the same thing. That's what I think basically this verse is saying, this paragraph.
And this should be as it is. The experience of the saint, gained at the moment of total transcendence of the body, mind, and intellect, is an experience of itself in itself. Even when we sleep, this is true. Once we reach the hall of slumber, the experience of sleep as such is the same, whether we be victorious kings or wretched failures in life.
So he's just telling you that we have those three states now, like Jagrit and Swapna and deep sleep. स्वप्न अलग अलग हो सकता है, जागृत में तो खैर वैरायटी है, स्लीप सबकी एक जैसी होती है, deep sleep, which is so we actually have this experience of this same thing for everyone. In fact, somebody was telling that even the animals, उनका जो sleep state है, that is same as what humans have. Now, whether you want to believe it or not, but at least something to contemplate upon,
Yeah. The stanza also hints that many have attained my being through these different paths. This assertion is to emphasize the fact that Karma Yoga is not anything new, but is only a revival of what had been found successful in the past.
So it is a time-tested thing. Nobody can dispute it. That's what he's telling you. It was there, and he's just restating it and putting a different package and giving it to you. On all the saints and sages, that's exactly what they do. They just package it differently depending on time and place. जो चाहिए वो तुमको देंगे, and it doesn't have to be only Hindu saints or anything like that. Nothing like that at all. Anybody on the higher state, we can package it and give it to you what you need. And there is one connecting paragraph.
Then Lord Krishna must be cherishing feelings of affection and aversion, since he liberates some and not all. The answer follows.
So basically, he's just saying that is God partial to people who do these things or versus other, and we'll learn about it. What Swamiji has an amazing way of explaining that later. But at least this verse was a pretty amazing verse, because one of the Swamis said that this particular chapter is also has another name called Jnana Yoga. It's called renunciation of action, but also because there's so much about knowledge is there in it. And we have just done beginnings of it. Abhi to bahut interesting verse aayenge. Chapter 4 is quite amazing, actually. Very amazing. Anybody has any question, comment, or want to add something to this verse?
it just say renunciation?
Renunciation of action, that is the name of this chapter, because karma sannyas bolte hain usko. So we will learn. There are some very complicated verses are going to come in this, and I think Joe talks about it, about akarma and karma and all that, actionlessness and action. So because it has all those masala in it, basically it's telling you that even while doing, you understand you're not doing anything. You don't have that ego, because Prakriti is doing everything. And consciousness is just present. So those are the concepts that we have kind of learned, but we will open it up more and more as we go ahead in this chapter. Or there is another word, like Hindi में बोलते हैं कर्तापन, and English में बोलते हैं doership. That we have this doership about ourselves, and once you have the knowledge, you realize that you are not the doer, they call it. It's just, I think that one of the way this Swami explained, remember this Chinmaya mission was having this, different Swamis were talking on different chapter, and the one who spoke on chapter 4 was brilliant, and he was so good, and very young Swami. I don't even know where he's from, somewhere either India or America, I don't know.